Relief for millions of Americans who rely on insulin. Drug maker Eli Lilly is slashing costs by 70%, capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month for those with private insurance.
The company also has a program that offers insulin to those uninsured for the same cost. In January, the Inflation Reduction Act imposed a $35 monthly cap on the out-of-pocket cost of insulin for seniors enrolled in Medicare. Peter Pitts is the former FDA Associate Commissioner and President of the Center for Medicine in the Public Interest with us now. Also, Dr. Frank Contessessa is an internist with the Custom Care Medical Group. Welcome to you both, and thanks so much for coming on. Peter, let me start with you. The change comes as Eli Lilly and other insulin manufacturers were facing ongoing criticism for high prices. How much will this really save people who have to use this medication?
Well, when people say my drugs are too expensive or my insulin is too expensive, what they generally mean is my copay at the pharmacy is too expensive. And those prices are set by insurance companies and things called PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers. So what Lilly is saying is basically PBMs drop dead. We're going to take those discounts, we're going to give them directly to the consumer. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of people saying, I'm not even going to use my insurance, I'm simply going to pay out of pocket because it's cheaper. And that is a good thing for consumers, but it also shows how messed up the system really is, where people with insurance don't use it because the insurance is too expensive.
Dr. Contessessa, I'll bring you into this conversation if we can. I want to play this for you and then get your response. The CEO of Eli Lilly, David Ricks, here he is explaining why the price cut took so long.
Post-patent, products should become cheap. I think that's the understanding that policymakers and Americans have about how our industry should work. That hadn't occurred for insulin, and we thought the first and best way to do that would be to have competition. For reasons kind of unknown to me, this hasn't been a sector that biosimilar or generic companies have targeted.
Doctor, your thoughts on that? Have you been following this story, and how does that correlate to your patients?
I have, Sean. Good morning, and thanks for having me here. My response to that would be better late than never. When drugs come off patent, which usually is 10 years, so when a big money-making drug like, say, Viagra, after 10 years, it becomes generic and the prices usually drop. We've had insulin on the market for 100 years. Actually, Eli Lilly was one of the first companies that brought a commercial insulin product to market. So I would say better late than never. This is welcome news for a lot of patients. There are 8.5 million people who are dependent on insulin in this country, and almost 40 million diabetics, who a lot of them are heading towards insulin use. So this is a vital drug. It's a life-sustaining and life-saving drug that people need. And I think for too long that a lot of these drug companies have been kind of gouging the market. Listen, I'm a free market capitalist. I'm all for companies making a profit. But after 100 years of making profits, it was time to bring this down, and it probably could come down even further because it really only cost them a few dollars a vial to make this stuff. So, let them make a couple of dollars a vial. But I don't think anybody has a problem with making a profit, but making 100 times profit is probably a bit too much. So I know for my patients, this will be a welcome change.
Sure, and this impacts so many Americans, right, who've come to rely on this medication. Peter Pitts, we've talked about the impact that China has had on producing medications that Americans use all the time. Is this a time that we should really look into American-made medication and encourage the production of that so we're not so reliant on China?
Well, the supply chain is very important. Obviously, we have too many eggs in the China basket. We've got to diversify. When it comes to insulin, the question of companies making a lot of money, you have to ask which companies. Eli Lilly's CEO said they've raise the price, but they continually make less and less because the middleman sucks so much money out of the system. Pharmacy benefit managers take almost $200 billion a year out of the U.S. healthcare system. That's about 37% of all the money we spend on pharmaceuticals. So by disintermediating the middleman, going direct to the consumer, going directly through pharmacies, customers are going to, patients, citizens are going to save a lot of money, and that means greater adherence and compliance, which is better for their health and our economy.
Peter Pitts joining us live on that. Dr. Frank Contessessa, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.